Husband kicked out his wife. 6 years later, she returned with twins and a secret that ruined him. The camera pans over a stunning garden. Thousands of white roses in bloom. The gentle hum of a string quartet filling the air. Suddenly, 6 years ago, he threw her out, pregnant and alone, believing a lie. Today, as he stands at the altar ready to marry another, she returns, with twins he never knew, and a secret that will destroy everything he built. Guests turn, gasping. The black helicopter lands. A woman in a tailored suit steps out. Her eyes locked on him. Two small children hold her hands. This isn't just about revenge. It's about truth, betrayal, and the price of choosing the wrong person to trust. When love turns to ashes, will redemption rise? Or will his empire fall at the hands of the woman he once loved? Husband kicked out his wife. 6 years later, she returned with twins and a secret that ruined him. Subscribe for stories that touch the heart and twist the soul. Session 1. The night she was cast out. The rain hit the windows of the Reed estate like tiny hammers. A relentless storm sweeping in from the coast. Inside the grand mansion, the glow of crystal chandeliers did little to chase away the chill that had settled in Victor Reed's chest. He sat at the edge of their bed, his hands trembling as he held her phone, scrolling through message after message that felt like a knife carving into his soul. Each word, each photo, each timestamp seemed to scream one thing: she betrayed you. Behind him, Eliza's soft humming echoed from the bathroom as she brushed her hair. Unaware of the storm about to break, Victor's jaw tightened. He couldn't breathe. "Victor?" Her voice was light, loving, as she stepped into the room. She wore the silk robe he had bought her from Paris, her caramel hair falling softly around her shoulders, eyes still lined with the tenderness of their shared life. But to Victor, it all looked like a lie. "What are you doing with my phone?" Her smile faded. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stood, his 6-foot frame looming in the golden light, holding the phone out toward her like it was poison. "Who is Michael?" His voice was low, cold. Eliza blinked, confused. "Michael? I don't know any Michael." "Don't lie to me." His words cut sharper now, louder. He shoved the screen in front of her face. 3 months. Eliza. 3 months of this, while I was away, working, building our future. You were in our bed with him. Eliza's knees nearly gave out. She stared at the screen. The messages, her number, her name, but these weren't hers. She scrolled, hands shaking. "Victor, I've never seen these before. I swear, I don't know this man. Your perfume was on his clothes." His voice trembled with rage, his face pale. "He knew about the scar on your shoulder. The one only I should know. Victor, someone is setting me up." Her voice cracked, tears flooding her eyes. "Why would I do this? We've been trying for a baby. I love you." The door burst open. Julian. He didn't knock. He never did. Security found this in her car. He tossed a small evidence bag onto the bed. A man's expensive watch. A hotel keycard. "I've never seen those." Eliza gasped, reaching for Victor. He stepped back. "Get out." His voice was hollow. "Victor, please, get out." Louder now, roaring like the thunder outside. Security guards appeared in the doorway. Eliza's breath came in short gasps, her heart pounding. She clutched at Victor's arm. Why would I cheat when we're trying to have a child? Why now?" But Victor's eyes were dead. "Not anymore. Julian's already drafted the papers." "You want a divorce?" Her voice was barely a whisper, breaking into pieces. Julian looked away. "Get her out." Victor's command sent the guards forward. The next moments blurred, hands on her arms, her suitcase. How had it been packed? Already by the door. The cold of the hallway. The staff watching, silent, complicit. "Victor," she screamed, fighting, sobbing. "This isn't real. Please, look at me. Look at me." He didn't. From the balcony above, he stood with Julian, as her world crumbled beneath her. Outside, the rain poured harder, soaking her nightgown as she stumbled to her car. The gates closed behind her with a finality that felt like death. 20 minutes later, parked under the harsh lights of a 24-hour pharmacy, Eliza sat in the driver's seat, shaking uncontrollably. Her phone buzzed. Access revoked. Bank accounts frozen. Preliminary divorce proceedings filed. Her hands flew to her stomach. Nausea overwhelming her, not from fear, from something deeper. She ran inside, tears blurring the aisles. Grabbed a test with the last cash in her purse. 3 minutes. Positive. She collapsed against the cold tile. Sobbing. His child. At dawn, she drove to Reed Pharmaceuticals, the towering glass building that bore his name and hers. Security stopped her before she reached the door. "Tell him I'm pregnant," her voice cracked. "Please." They returned 10 minutes later. "Mr. Reed says, given your infidelity, he has no reason to believe the child is his." Her body crumpled. That night, in a Walmart parking lot, Eliza slept in her car. 7 weeks pregnant, alone, but she wasn't broken. Not yet. Session 2. The betrayal beneath the surface. The days after her exile bled together in a haze of rain-slicked streets. Unanswered calls. And cold, sleepless nights. Eliza's once-ordered world had crumbled overnight, and every attempt to make sense of it was met with locked doors and silence. But amidst the chaos, something ignited inside her, a fire fueled not just by betrayal, but by the fierce instinct to protect the life growing within her. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. It was a gray morning when she first met Eleanor Simmons. Eliza was doubled over in a parking lot behind a coffee shop, dry heaving into the gutter. The nausea came in waves now, relentless and cruel, stealing her strength one breath at a time. She heard footsteps, slow and deliberate, and a voice laced with the kind of bluntness only age can excuse. "You're either pregnant or dying. Dear, either way, you need help." Eliza wiped her mouth, eyes blurry, heart pounding. The woman before her was in her 70s, with sharp blue eyes and a no-nonsense expression. "I'm fine," Eliza lied, her voice hoarse. Eleanor didn't flinch. "You look like hell, and you're not fine." There was something about her, the way she didn't pity Eliza. Didn't look away, just stood there, steady as stone. "Come on, then. I won't ask questions you don't want to answer." Too tired to fight, Eliza followed. Eleanor's house was small but warm, filled with the smell of old books and lavender. She lived alone, her husband and only daughter long gone, taken by cancer and time. In Eliza, she saw something familiar, a woman stripped bare by life. Standing at the edge, she offered Eliza her daughter's old room. "No strings attached. Stay as long as you need. But don't think I'll let you wallow. I've buried enough dreams in this house to know the weight of wasted time." As the weeks passed, Eliza began to piece herself back together. Her days were simple: morning walks, prenatal appointments, and long hours sitting at Eleanor's kitchen table, staring at her laptop, trying to make sense of what had happened. She still had her mind, sharp, trained, relentless, and she used it to dissect the nightmare she'd been thrown into. She made lists, timelines, names, connections, and one name kept circling back: Julian Thomas. Victor's oldest friend, the man who had stood by him, the man who had delivered the fatal blow that night, the man who had walked into their bedroom, watch and key in hand, sealing her fate. But why? One rainy afternoon, Eliza found herself at a local coffee shop, hunched over job listings, her belly just beginning to show. A pair of researchers sat at the next table, deep in conversation, their words slicing through the white noise. "The numbers don't add up," one whispered. The side effect reports were altered before submission. Julian signed off on everything. Eliza froze. Her pulse thundered. Victor probably never saw the real data, the other said. She gripped the table, her mind racing. "Julian, the drug trials, my research." It wasn't just about her. Back at Eleanor's, she pored over her old notes, her research files, what little she had salvaged before being locked out of the Reed systems. The cancer treatment trials she had worked on, the data she had been so proud of, now it all felt poisoned. If Julian had altered results, if he had falsified safety reports, people could die. And if she had stayed, she would have found out. That was the answer. Julian hadn't just destroyed her marriage. He had removed her because she was a threat to his secret, to his plans. And Victor? He had been the perfect pawn. Eleanor found her at the table that night, surrounded by papers and tears. "He didn't just ruin me," Eliza whispered. "He's risking lives." Eleanor nodded slowly. "So what are you going to do about it?" The next morning, Eliza pawned her wedding ring. $112. It was a fraction of what it was worth, but enough. She bought a used laptop, paid for prenatal care, and rented a tiny office space in the back of a community clinic. And she got to work. Her world became a cycle of survival and purpose. She couldn't get hired. Julian had seen to that, but she could work. The clinic, run by Dr. Rebecca Torres, was chaotic but honest. They served low-income patients, many of whom had no other options. Dr. Torres, a whirlwind of passion and defiance, didn't care about Eliza's past or her enemies. If you can help, you got a place here. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't what Eliza had once imagined for herself. But it was real, and it gave her a reason to keep moving. By the time she was 7 months pregnant, her belly heavy with twins, she had found a pattern. Patients who had taken Reed Pharmaceuticals' new cancer drug were showing liver complications, 3 times the rate reported. The same drug she had once believed would change lives. "We need more evidence," Dr. Torres said, scanning the data. "But you're onto something." Eliza's eyes burned. "I'm not stopping. Not until I expose him." But there was more. As she dug deeper, she found whispers of offshore accounts, irregular financial transactions, and connections that led straight back to Julian and Sophia. Together, they had not only framed her but used Victor's trust to cover their crimes. They weren't just after her marriage. They wanted the company. And Victor? He was next. In the final weeks of her pregnancy, Eliza made a vow. She wouldn't just survive. She would fight. Not just for herself. For her children. For the truth. Session 3. The Birth of Hope and the Rise of Phoenix. The storm had passed, but the skies remained overcast, thick with the weight of the unknown. Eliza stood by the window of Eleanor's modest home, her hands resting on the swell of her belly, now so large she could barely see her feet. Each breath felt heavy, not from fear, but from the enormity of what lay ahead. She wasn't just days away from becoming a mother, she was on the brink of something far greater. Something no one, not even Victor, could stop. Her children would be born into a world shaped by betrayal, but they would never be defined by it. The labor came in the quiet hours of early morning. Eliza had just settled into bed, exhaustion pulling at every muscle, when the first sharp pain sliced through her body. She gasped, gripping the edge of the mattress, eyes wide in the darkness. "Eleanor," her voice echoed through the house. Within minutes, Eleanor was by her side, calm and firm, helping her into the car, driving through empty streets toward Dr. Torres's clinic. There would be no private hospital suite, no luxury accommodations, but there would be safety, and trust, and love. The delivery was long, grueling. Twin births often were, but as dawn broke, painting the sky in muted golds and grays, 2 cries filled the air. Leo was first, serious, intense, as if already aware of the world's weight. Then Luna, bright-eyed, loud, her tiny fists curled in defiance. Eliza wept as she held them, her heart swelling with something fierce and raw. "You're safe," she whispered. "You're mine. No reporters, no photographers, no family waiting outside. Only Eleanor, wiping tears from her wrinkled cheeks, and Dr. Torres, who looked at the newborns with a strange, tender pride. They have his eyes," Eleanor said softly. Eliza nodded, her gaze steady. "But they'll have my strength." The weeks that followed were a blur of sleepless nights and endless feedings, of diapers and lullabies, of exhaustion laced with overwhelming love. The twins grew quickly, their personalities already distinct. Leo, quiet and observant, seemed to watch everything, as if memorizing the world. Luna, ever the explorer, kicked and squirmed, eager to push beyond every boundary. Eliza adjusted to the rhythm of motherhood, but the fire inside her never dimmed. She had work to do. Phoenix Pharmaceuticals wasn't born out of revenge. It was born out of necessity, a necessity to protect, to heal, and to expose the rot festering in the company she once believed in. By the time the twins were 4 months old, Eliza had filled notebook after notebook with data, ideas, and formulas. She had taken the initial research she had begun at Reed Pharmaceuticals and pushed it further, refining compounds, experimenting with safer alternatives. Dr. Torres, impressed by her dedication and brilliance, made an offer Eliza never expected. "I have a lab," she said one night, rocking Luna in her arms. "A real one, fully equipped. My late husband left me enough to keep it running. It's yours if you want it." Eliza stared, stunned. "You'd do that for me?" "Not for you," Dr. Torres corrected. "For the people you're going to save. For the system we're going to change." The lab was everything Eliza had dreamed of, and more. nestled in what had once been a large barn behind Dr. Torres's house. It was a sanctuary of science. No shareholders, no deadlines, just pure, untainted research. She worked there while the twins napped in portable cribs, the soft hum of machines blending with their gentle breathing. At night, she pored over medical journals, tracking Reed Pharmaceuticals' every move. She wasn't ready to strike yet, but she would be. As the months passed, the first breakthrough came, a compound that showed promise. Not just in theory, but in early testing. It was safer, more effective, and cheaper to produce than anything Reed had released. Dr. Torres reviewed the results, her eyes wide. This could change everything. Eliza's hands shook as she held the vial. We need to patent it. We need to start a company. The idea felt impossible. Eliza had no business background, no capital, no connections. But Dr. Torres was prepared. I've invested in startups before, she revealed, quietly, carefully. I can fund you, but you have to lead it. Why? Eliza asked, wary. Dr. Torres smiled. Because 20 years ago, I was you. Betrayed, underestimated. I didn't have anyone, but you do. And I believe in you. And so, Phoenix Pharmaceuticals was born. They filed patents under Eliza's maiden name, Eliza Winters, keeping her true identity hidden. They built slowly, ethically, partnering with small clinics, focusing on patients first, no lies, no shortcuts. The first product was a success, gaining traction in medical circles. Slowly, Phoenix became a name whispered with respect, then with admiration. Victor and Reed Pharmaceuticals remained unaware. But not for long. Eliza watched as Reed Pharmaceuticals began to feel the ripple. Contracts lost, patients switching, doctors questioning, and then came the headlines. New player in oncology field challenges Reed Pharmaceuticals. Phoenix Pharmaceuticals delivers safer, affordable alternatives. Victor's world was beginning to crack. But Eliza didn't rejoice. She didn't want to destroy him. She wanted him to see, to know, what he had lost, what she had become. One evening, as the twins toddled around the small living room, Leo clutching a toy stethoscope, Luna waving a plastic star wand, Eliza stared at the framed photo on the wall. Their wedding day. Victor, smiling, hopeful. Her, in love. You didn't just lose me, Victor, she whispered. You lost all of this. Her hand rested on the twins' heads. And one day, you'll see. Session 4. The Invitation and the Reckoning. The skyline glittered as twilight fell over the city. The glass towers of downtown reflecting the amber hues of sunset. From the penthouse office of Reed Pharmaceuticals, Victor Reed stared out over his empire. Yet the view did nothing to still the unease creeping into his chest. For weeks now, there had been murmurs. Hospitals dropping their contracts. Doctors favoring a new treatment protocol. A name, barely known a year ago, now spoken with respect in circles that once belonged solely to him. Phoenix Pharmaceuticals. Victor had dismissed it at first. Upstarts came and went in his industry. But this was different. Their success wasn't just notable, it was personal. Their treatments, their research, it mirrored what Eliza had once worked on, what she had dreamt of. He shook the thought away, refusing to let the past haunt him. But something about Phoenix wouldn't let go. Across the city, in a sleek but modest office space bearing the Phoenix logo, Eliza Winters stood over a table littered with reports. Her face, illuminated by the soft glow of overhead lights, was calm, composed. Dr. Torres sat nearby, reviewing a fresh stack of financials. Reed lost another contract, Torres said without looking up. Mercy Hospital. That's $30 million in revenue. Gone. Eliza's fingers tightened around her pen. But she didn't speak. And look at this, Torres continued, sliding a magazine across the table. Victor's face stared up from the glossy cover. Sophia at his side, her hand resting on his chest. Pharmaceutical power couple to wed this spring. Victor Reed and Sophia Thomas to unite in lavish ceremony. Asterisk. Eliza's eyes narrowed. May 15th. The date seared into her memory. The night he cast her out. They're using the anniversary, she said softly, to erase me. Dr. Torres studied her. You're not thinking of stopping them. Eliza shook her head. No, I'm thinking of finishing this. Victor's week spiraled. Julian, tense and irritable, paced outside his office, fielding calls from nervous board members. The pressure was mounting. Stockholders wanted answers. We need to meet with them, Victor said abruptly, slamming his hand on the desk. Julian turned, frowning. With who? Phoenix. This. Eliza Winters. I want to see what they're about. Maybe there's a deal to be made. Julian's face darkened. She won't come. I've heard she avoids meetings with larger firms. Victor's eyes sharpened. Everyone has a price. The invitation was simple. A charity gala. Neutral ground. No boardrooms. No lawyers. Just a conversation. Eliza accepted. The night of the gala arrived, and the city buzzed with anticipation. Industry leaders, politicians, and celebrities filled the grand ballroom, dressed in black tie elegance. The air electric with power and ambition. Victor stood near the entrance, scanning the crowd, his heart beat faster than he liked to admit. He didn't know what he expected, perhaps some ambitious young scientist, eager for fame, ready to sell out. What he wasn't prepared for was her. Eliza entered with quiet grace, her navy evening gown flowing like liquid midnight, her hair swept up, exposing the line of her neck. Her eyes, those same eyes that had once looked at him with love, now held something colder, stronger. Victor froze. Julian, beside him, turned pale. Eliza? Victor whispered, disbelieving. She smiled, a curve of lips without warmth. Hello, Victor. The air seemed to vanish. Conversations faltered, eyes turned. Victor took a step forward, his mind racing. You, Phoenix, you're Eliza Winters, she finished for him, CEO of the company that's been outpacing yours for months. Julian stepped forward, anger flaring. You have no right. Eliza cut him off, her voice sharp. You're in no position to speak of rights. Julian. Victor looked between them, confusion deepening. What is this? He asked. Eliza glanced around the room, the crowd thick with curiosity. Not here. She turned, walking toward the private lounge. Victor followed. In the quiet of the lounge, Eliza faced him, the weight of years pressing down. You've been trying to meet me, she said. Now you have. Victor's hands trembled slightly. Why? Why the secrecy? Why this game? Eliza's gaze didn't waver. It wasn't a game when you threw me out, Victor. He flinched. I thought you were unfaithful, she snapped. Because Julian told you. Because he showed you lies and you believed him. Victor swallowed hard. You left. You didn't fight. Her laugh was bitter. I was pregnant. Victor. 7 weeks. I tried to tell you. Your guards turned me away. Silence. I have twins, she said. Your children, Leo and Luna. His knees nearly gave out. Across the city, Dr. Torres finalized the last set of documents. Evidence of fraud. Proof of Julian and Sophia's crimes. Tomorrow, it would all come crashing down. Back at the gala, Victor stood in stunned silence. Why now? He asked. Voice hollow. Eliza's eyes softened, just for a moment. Because they deserve to know the truth. And because you need to know what you lost. Session 5. The Truth Unveiled. Morning light crept over the city like a revelation, spilling through the tall windows of the Reed Pharmaceuticals boardroom. For the first time in years, Victor Reed sat at the head of the long table. Not with the confidence of a man in control, but with the uncertainty of someone standing at the edge of a cliff. The ground shifting beneath him. In front of him lay 2 folders. One held the future of Reed Pharmaceuticals, or what might remain of it. The other, the truth, raw, brutal, and inescapable. Victor barely slept after the gala. Eliza's words had echoed through him all night, shaking loose every memory, every decision he had built his life upon since the night he forced her out. Her eyes haunted him, not with anger, but with disappointment, and something worse, pity. Twins, his children, Julian's lies, Sophia's betrayal. He wanted to deny it, to push it all away, but the weight of it wouldn't let go. Eliza didn't wait long to strike. At 9 a.m., as Victor entered the boardroom, his father and several senior executives already present. The first email landed in their inboxes. Subject: urgent, evidence of fraudulent activity and conflict of interest. Attached: financial records tracing over $80 million to offshore accounts. Altered drug trial data signed by Julian Thomas. Communications between Julian and Sophia plotting Eliza's removal. And finally, a DNA report. Conclusive. Leo and Luna Reed, his. The room was silent as the executives read. Faces paling, eyes wide. Victor felt the world tilt again. Julian was late. Deliberately. At 9:15, Eliza arrived, not in secret, not as a shadow from his past, but as the CEO of Phoenix Pharmaceuticals, the woman holding his company's fate in her hands. She stood at the doorway, composed, elegant in a tailored suit. Victor stood to greet her, but she motioned him to sit. "Let's not waste time," she said, her voice clear, carrying across the room like a bell. She laid out her terms. Phoenix is prepared to offer a merger. Gasps. Not a buyout, not a hostile takeover, a merger. To stabilize what's left of this company and protect the patients you still serve. Victor's father, Richard, leaned forward, his eyes filled with both awe and shame. "Why would you do this? After everything Eliza met his gaze. "Because there are still good people here. And because the company we built, the one I believed in, deserves a chance to survive. But I will not let Julian's legacy stand." At 9:30, Julian finally arrived, flanked by 2 federal agents. "Julian Thomas, you are under arrest for corporate fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy." The agents read his rights as the room erupted in chaos. Julian struggled, his face twisted in fury. "Victor, say something. This is her plan. Victor stood, but his voice was quiet. "You lied. You needed me to lie." Julian roared. "You wanted her gone. You just didn't have the guts to admit it." The words hit Victor like a slap. But he didn't look away. As Julian was led out, Victor turned to Eliza. "And Sophia? Already in custody." Her voice was emotionless. "She'll answer for her part." Victor nodded, swallowing hard. "And the twins?" Eliza hesitated, then softened. "They're safe. Happy. They know about you. They want to meet you, when they're ready." The meeting ended with stunned silence and reluctant approval. Phoenix and Reed would merge. Eliza would oversee all research and development. Victor would remain CEO, but under a strict ethical board. One Eliza would help appoint. Later, alone in his office, Victor stared at a photograph on his desk. Their wedding day. So much love, so much trust. Gone. That evening, he arrived at Eliza's home. Nervous, uncertain. The door opened to the sound of laughter. Leo and Luna stood there. Curious, cautious. "Hello," Victor said, kneeling. "I'm your father." Luna tilted her head. "We know. Mom told us. You didn't know about us?" Victor shook his head, tears brimming. "No, but I do now. And I'd like to get to know you. If you'll let me." Leo stepped closer, holding out a drawing. Victor took it, hands shaking. A family, them, and hope. Session 6. The Price of Forgiveness. The first time Victor Reed sat across from his children, he didn't know how to breathe. Leo and Luna were smaller than he imagined, yet more powerful than anything he'd faced in boardrooms or courtrooms. They were 6 years of missed birthdays, lost first steps, and unspoken lullabies, all wrapped in 2 pairs of eyes that mirrored his own. He wasn't used to being nervous, but now, every movement felt measured, every word too heavy or too light. He reached for something, anything, that might build a bridge across the chasm of time. "Do you like stories?" Victor asked, his voice tentative. Luna nodded immediately, her dark curls bouncing. "I like space stories, about stars and planets and rockets." Victor smiled, relieved. "I know a few of those. Maybe I could tell you one sometime?" Leo, quieter, watched closely. "Mom tells good stories too." Victor nodded, humbly. "She always did." Forgiveness, Victor learned, wasn't a moment. It was 1,000 small choices. And the first was to show up. He started small. Saturday visits, walks in the park, reading bedtime stories when Eliza allowed. He didn't force his way into their lives, he asked. Waited, respected the boundaries she set. Eliza watched him closely, wary but not cruel. She had no interest in revenge now, only in ensuring that the fragile world she'd built for Leo and Luna remained safe. They need stability, she reminded him one night as he stood in her doorway. Coat in hand. "I'm not here to take them away," Victor said softly. "I just want to know them." Trust didn't come easy. Leo was cautious, always studying, always waiting for the cracks to show. Luna, bold and bright, tested him, pushed buttons, asked hard questions. "Why didn't you come find us?" she demanded one day. Victor knelt beside her, heartbreaking. "Because I didn't know you were there. But now that I do, I'm not going anywhere." Meanwhile, The merger between Phoenix and Reed Pharmaceuticals became public. Headlines screamed, "Reed's reckoning," and "The wife who came back stronger." Eliza declined interviews. Victor stood before cameras, admitting his failure, not just as a CEO, but as a man. "I believed lies. I made decisions out of pride and pain. But today, we rebuild, not just our company, but our integrity." Behind closed doors, it was harder. The board trusted Eliza. The staff adored her. Victor had to earn every ounce of respect again, day by day. And every evening, he left the office not for late-night meetings, but for moments with his children, moments he could no longer afford to miss. One evening, weeks later, Victor arrived early. Leo met him at the door, holding something wrapped in tissue paper. "For you," he said, shyly. Victor opened it slowly, hands trembling. "A rock, but not just any rock. It's from the park," Leo explained. "We found it. Luna says it's just a rock, but I think it's special. Like us." Victor blinked, tears threatening. "It's the most special thing I've ever had." Later that night, after the twins were asleep, Victor lingered. Eliza stood in the kitchen, pouring tea. "They're coming around," she said, not looking at him. "Because of you." Victor shook his head. "Because of you, Eliza. You raised them right. You gave them the strength to let me in." A pause. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he continued, "but I need to say this, I'm sorry. For everything." Eliza turned, eyes meeting his. "I forgave you a long time ago, Victor. For me, not for you." The price of forgiveness wasn't paid all at once. It was paid in patience, in humility, in the quiet moments where Victor sat with his children and listened. In the nights he walked away, knowing he could no longer claim the love he had thrown away, but grateful for the chance to witness what had grown in its place. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low, casting golden light over the city, Leo and Luna sat on the balcony, pointing at clouds. Victor joined them, sitting quietly. "Do you think people can change?" Luna asked, eyes thoughtful. Victor looked at her, then at Leo, then out at the sky. "I think they have to, or they lose everything that matters." That night, Victor stood in Eliza's doorway. "Thank you," he said. Eliza nodded, weary but content. "You're doing better." He hesitated. Is there ever a chance we could be a family again?" Eliza's answer was gentle, final. "We already are, just not in the way we were." And Victor understood. Session 7. The legacy they share. The office that once echoed with Victor Reed's commands now felt different. Lighter. Not because the pressure had lessened, it hadn't. If anything, the stakes were higher now than ever before. But for the first time in years, Victor wasn't bearing the weight of it alone. Eliza stood beside him, reviewing projections for their next product launch, one born from her research, but now carrying both of their names. Phoenix Reed Pharmaceuticals wasn't just a company anymore. It was a symbol of what had been broken, of what had been rebuilt, of what they had chosen to protect. Together, we're ahead of schedule, Eliza noted, eyes flicking over the numbers. Victor nodded. The board's response? Cautious, but positive. She glanced up. They trust results more than words. We've given them both. Victor smiled faintly, but there was something unsettled in his eyes. What? He hesitated. There's something we need to discuss. About the FDA audit. Weeks earlier, whispers had reached them. The FDA, responding to past complaints from former Reed Pharmaceuticals clients, was launching a full investigation, not just into Julian's crimes, but into every product released during Victor's tenure. It was a standard procedure after a scandal of such magnitude, but it was also a threat. They've requested a review of the oncology line, Victor said quietly, the one we merged into Phoenix's portfolio. Eliza's face hardened. The one Julian manipulated. Yes. Silence fell between them. If they find discrepancies, Victor continued, it could halt everything, even our new trials. Eliza turned, looking out the window. We've already cleaned the data, fixed the protocols. The new compounds are solid. But the old ones? She didn't answer. That night, at home, Eliza sat at her desk long after the twins had fallen asleep. Leo curled up with a geology book. Luna still sketching stars in her notebook. She stared at the old files. The ones she had salvaged. The ones that told the story of Reed Pharmaceuticals' rise and fall. She had a choice. Erase the past, or confront it. The next morning, Eliza walked into Victor's office, a folder in hand. "We disclose everything." Victor looked up, brow furrowed. "Even if it kills the brand?" "Especially then." Her voice was firm. "We're not Julian. We don't hide the truth." The board wasn't happy, but they listened. Together, Eliza and Victor presented their findings. A full audit of past formulations, patient outcomes, and revised protocols. It was brutal, but honest. The press descended like wolves. Phoenix Reed admits past failures, commits to full transparency. Stock dipped. Public trust wavered. But then, something unexpected happened. Doctors rallied. Patients shared stories of improved care under Phoenix's new treatments. And slowly, painfully, trust began to rebuild. One evening, after a long day of damage control, Victor found Eliza on the rooftop of the Phoenix building, the city sprawling below them. "You were right," he said. She looked at him, tired but steady. "It wasn't about saving a company," she replied. "It was about saving what mattered." The twins thrived amid the storm. Leo's fascination with rocks evolved into full-blown experiments, complete with labeled jars and hypotheses taped to his bedroom wall. Luna convinced Victor to help her build a telescope from a kit. Their weekends spent scanning the night sky. One night, after the twins had fallen asleep on the couch, Eliza covered them with a blanket, pausing to watch their peaceful faces. Victor stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets. "You did this," he said softly. She shook her head. "We did." A week later, the FDA released its report. Phoenix Reed had passed. With recommendations, with oversight, but they had passed. And for the first time, Victor felt something he hadn't in years. Pride. Not in power, but in integrity. They held a small celebration. No press, no fanfare, just the core team, the people who had fought beside them. Dr. Torres, smiling wider than ever. Eleanor, offering her usual blunt toast to common sense, and to not screwing it up again. Victor laughed. Eliza rolled her eyes. But in that moment, surrounded by people who had seen them at their worst, they felt whole. Later that night, as Victor walked Eliza to her car, he paused. "What now?" he asked. Eliza leaned against the door, thoughtful. "We keep building. For them." Victor nodded. "But there was something else." "And for us?" Eliza smiled, soft and distant. "We already share a legacy. Victor, one we'll protect, always. But some things aren't meant to be rebuilt. They're meant to be remembered." And as he watched her drive away, their children safe, their company strong, Victor finally understood. Some love stories don't end the way we imagine. But sometimes, the legacy they leave behind is more powerful than the love itself. Session 8. The Future They Build. The soft morning light spilled into the kitchen, catching the steam rising from Eliza's coffee cup. She stood at the island counter, flipping through Leo's latest notebook, each page filled with sketches of rocks, notes about minerals, and a careful record of every experiment he had conducted in the past week. On the opposite side, Luna's constellation drawings lay scattered, her newest fascination with the stars now a full-blown obsession. Their world had changed in ways neither child could fully understand. But they were thriving, not because the past had disappeared, but because it had finally stopped chasing them. Victor arrived just after breakfast, the familiar rhythm of shared mornings now part of their co-parenting routine. "Did they tell you about the school project?" Eliza asked as he stepped inside, setting down his briefcase. Victor nodded, smiling. "The one where Luna wants to build a planetarium in the living room? And Leo wants to start a rock museum on the balcony," Eliza added with a laugh. They moved in sync, preparing snacks, packing bags, moving around each other like a team, not husband and wife. Not lovers, but partners in the life they now shared through Leo and Luna. At school drop-off, Victor knelt beside the twins. "I'll pick you up at 3. Maybe we can work on your projects together after dinner?" Luna grinned. "Only if you let me name the planets." "Deal." Victor chuckled. Leo tugged at his sleeve. "Can we go to the museum this weekend?" Victor glanced at Eliza, who gave a small nod. "Absolutely." Back at Phoenix Reed Pharmaceuticals, the atmosphere had shifted. Where tension once ruled, collaboration now flourished. The scandal had not only cleansed the company of corruption but ignited a sense of purpose in those who remained. Victor sat at the head of the boardroom table, flanked by Eliza and Dr. Torres, reviewing their next initiative. We've been approached by the Global Health Alliance. Dr. Torres explained. They want us to develop affordable treatments for underfunded hospitals in South America and Africa. Victor leaned back, processing. That's ambitious. And necessary. Eliza added. This isn't just about profit anymore. It's about impact. The proposal was massive: new research, expanded facilities, international partnerships. It would test everything they'd built. But this was the future they had chosen. A legacy beyond themselves. That evening, Victor lingered after the twins had gone to bed. The new proposal spread out on Eliza's dining table. Do you think we can do it? He asked, studying the numbers. Eliza poured tea, setting a cup in front of him. We can, but we have to trust each other. Victor met her gaze. I do. A pause. And I trust you to lead it. Weeks turned into months. The project launched, and with it, a new chapter. Victor traveled frequently, representing Phoenix Reed on the global stage, while Eliza remained the driving force behind the research. Her name now synonymous with integrity and innovation. Yet through it all, they never lost sight of what mattered most. Leo's first science fair win. Luna's school play, where she played a star, literally. Family dinners, sometimes awkward, sometimes perfect. One night, after returning from a trip to Geneva, Victor found Leo waiting for him, clutching a worn book. Can you read to me? Victor's heart swelled. Of course. Meanwhile, Eliza found herself in unfamiliar territory, balancing success with something gentler. Something personal. David Torres, Dr. Torres's son, had quietly become part of her world. He didn't push, didn't demand. He was just there, with patience, with kindness. And when he held her hand at the twins' birthday party, it didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like something new. Victor noticed, of course. And for the first time, he didn't feel anger, only gratitude, that she had found peace, that the children had more love. One Sunday afternoon, as the sun set over the garden, Leo and Luna played, laughter echoing. Victor sat beside Eliza, watching them. They're happy, he said quietly. They are, she agreed. He turned to her, thoughtful. And you? Eliza smiled, soft and real. I'm learning. They sat in silence, the kind that didn't need filling, the kind that spoke of battles fought, of wounds healing. This isn't what I imagined, Victor admitted. No, Eliza replied. It's better. Session 9, the gift of time. The ticking of the clock echoed in the sterile exam room, each second a sharp reminder that life could shift in a moment. Victor sat on the edge of the padded table, the paper beneath him crinkling with every movement. He'd never liked hospitals. Despite running one of the largest pharmaceutical companies, he'd always avoided the patient side of the world. But now, with the results of a routine physical still burning in his pocket, he had no choice. His heart had been racing for weeks, tightness in his chest, headaches that wouldn't fade. He'd chalked it up to stress, to travel, to the pressures of building a new legacy. Until the dizziness hit, until he passed out in a meeting. Dr. Patel, a longtime friend, entered the room quietly, his face composed, professional. Victor stood quickly. Tell me, don't dance around it. Dr. Patel sighed, placing the file on the counter. It's not life-threatening, but it's serious. Victor's shoulders tensed. A minor cardiac arrhythmia, probably stress-induced, but it's progressing. Victor frowned. Treatment? You need to slow down. Medication, rest, and a serious look at your lifestyle. Victor's instinct was to argue, to push through. But then he thought of Leo, of Luna, of all the time he'd already lost. Later that evening, he sat in his apartment, lights low, the city sprawling beyond the windows. He clutched the bottle of pills Dr. Patel had given him, his mind racing. How much time had he wasted? How much more did he have? The next morning, he stood outside Eliza's door, unsure why he had come. She opened it, surprised. Victor? He held up the prescription bag. Can we talk? In the quiet of her kitchen, he told her everything. About the diagnosis, about the fear. Eliza listened, silent, her face unreadable. Why didn't you call someone else? She asked gently. Victor's voice broke. Because you're the only one I trust with this. She didn't offer false comfort. She didn't make promises. But she made tea. And stayed. Days turned into weeks. And Victor began to change. He stepped back from the constant travel, focused more on local initiatives, on being present, with the twins, with life. One evening, after a long walk with Leo, Victor sat on a bench, breathless but content. "Dad, are you okay?" Leo asked. Noticing his pale face, Victor smiled. "I'm fine, just catching my breath." Leo nodded solemnly. "You should take better care of yourself. Like Mom says." Victor chuckled. "I'm learning, kiddo." At Phoenix Reed, Eliza took on more of the public leadership, guiding the company's expansion with steady hands. Victor didn't resist. He was proud of her, of what they'd built, of the example she set for their children. One night, after tucking the twins in, Victor lingered at the doorway of their room, watching them sleep. Eliza stood beside him. "They need you," she whispered. "Not just for now, for the long haul." Victor nodded. "I know. That's why I'm not wasting any more time." As spring arrived, bringing warmth and light, Victor embraced the life he had left behind for too long. Family dinners, school projects, long conversations with Eliza, not about business, but about meaning. One afternoon, while sorting through old files, Victor found a photo, him and Eliza, on their honeymoon, laughing, free. He brought it to her. Unsure why, she held it gently, smiling softly. "We were happy," he said. "We were young," she replied. "But yes, we were." They sat in silence, the past between them, no longer sharp, just present. "If things were different," Victor began. Eliza stopped him with a look. "They're different, Victor, and that's okay." That night, as he walked home, the city alive around him, Victor realized that the greatest gift wasn't time itself. It was what you chose to do with it. Session 10. The Promise Under Stars. The evening air was cool, tinged with the scent of spring blossoms and the faint hum of city life below. On the rooftop of the Phoenix Reed headquarters, the stars began to pierce the indigo sky, one by one, like promises waiting to be made. Eliza stood near the edge, her arms wrapped around herself, looking out over the skyline. The city had changed so much in 6 years, just as she had. Yet in this moment, it wasn't the towering buildings or the glowing lights that held her attention. It was the stars. It had become a tradition now, every year. On the twins' birthday, she brought them here. They would lie on blankets, point out constellations, and dream aloud about distant worlds. This year, they weren't alone. Victor arrived quietly, the door clicking shut behind him. He carried a small telescope in one hand, a gift Leo and Luna had begged him for, their latest fascination growing into an obsession. He spotted Eliza and paused, just watching her for a moment. There had been a time when he thought she would be his whole world forever. Now, he knew better. She had become her own universe. "You're early," she said without turning. Victor stepped beside her, setting the telescope down. "I didn't want to miss this." Below them, the city thrived, their company thriving with it, their children sleeping peacefully just floors beneath. Everything they had lost, everything they had rebuilt, led them here. "They're so excited," Victor said softly. "Leo's already making a list of planets to visit." Eliza smiled. "And Luna wants to build a rocket." They shared a quiet laugh, the kind that no longer carried the weight of old wounds. For a while, they stood in silence, watching as the stars filled the sky. Finally, Victor spoke. "Do you ever think about what might have been?" Eliza took a breath, the cool air filling her lungs. "I used to." He nodded, his eyes on the horizon. "I still do. Sometimes." She turned to him, her gaze steady. "But it's not about what might have been anymore, Victor. It's about what is." He looked at her then. Really looked. The woman who had once been his wife. Now the mother of his children. His partner in something greater than love, legacy. "I made a promise to them," he said, "to always be here, to never walk away again." Eliza's voice was gentle, yet strong. "And I made a promise too. To protect them, to teach them that love isn't perfect, but it's real." Victor reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet pouch. He handed it to her, his hand brushing hers. Inside was a locket, silver. Simple. She opened it slowly. On one side, a photo of Leo and Luna. On the other, an inscription, "Always under the same stars." Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Instead, she smiled, a soft, knowing smile. "Thank you." The door opened, and the twins appeared, sleepy-eyed but excited. "Are we too late?" Luna asked, running forward. "Never," Eliza said, kneeling to gather them close. Leo pointed to the telescope. "Can we look now?" Victor nodded. setting it up. For the next hour, they took turns peering into the night sky, their voices full of wonder, their laughter echoing off the rooftop walls. Victor and Eliza stood back, watching. "They're happy," he said. "They are," she agreed. And in that moment, under the vastness of the stars, they both understood something unspoken. Their story wasn't about endings. It was about becoming, about rising from ashes, not to reclaim what was lost, but to build something new, something brighter. As the twins packed up, yawning, Victor gathered them close. "Let's make a promise," he said, looking at them, then at Eliza. "Every year, no matter what, we meet here, under these stars, to remember where we've been, and to dream about where we'll go." Luna nodded eagerly. "Promise." Leo smiled. "Quieter." "Promise." Eliza reached for Victor's hand, just for a moment, squeezing it gently. "Promise." And as they descended the stairs, the stars above seemed to shine just a little brighter, lighting the way forward, for a family that wasn't perfect, but was whole in the ways that mattered most. Conclusion. What it really means to stay. Life doesn't always give us what we expect, but sometimes, the things we build from broken pieces are stronger, more beautiful, than anything we could have imagined. Victor and Eliza didn't find their way back to each other. They found something deeper, a love reshaped by truth, forgiveness, and the unwavering bond of family. A love that stayed. Husband kicked out his wife. 6 years later, she returned with twins and a secret that ruined him. 6 years ago, he threw her out, pregnant and alone, believing a lie. Today, as he stands at the altar ready to marry another, she returns, with twins he never knew, and a secret that will destroy everything he built. Guests turn, gasping. The black helicopter lands. A woman in a tailored suit steps out, her eyes locked on him. 2 small children hold her hands. This isn't just about revenge. It's about truth, betrayal, and the price of choosing the wrong person to trust. When love turns to ashes, will redemption rise? Or will his empire fall at the hands of the woman he once loved? Husband kicked out his wife. 6 years later, she returned with twins and a secret that ruined him. Subscribe for stories that touch the heart and twist the soul. Introduction. The betrayal that changed everything. Victor Reed never believed in second chances. Not in business, not in love. As the heir to Reed Pharmaceuticals, one of the most powerful pharmaceutical companies in the country, he was raised to think in absolutes, success or failure, loyalty or betrayal, love or loss. At 37, Victor had everything a man could desire: wealth, influence, and a legacy that stretched back generations. But behind the polished veneer of his life, there lingered a shadow, one shaped like a woman he once loved, and the betrayal he thought she committed. 6 years ago, Victor stood in the same garden where he now prepared to marry Sophia Thomas. Surrounded by manicured lawns and thousands of white roses. Back then, it had been for Eliza. His Eliza, the woman whose brilliant mind and compassionate heart had captivated him from the moment they met. A renowned biochemist, she wasn't just his wife, she was his equal, his partner in everything, from love to business. Together, they dreamed of a family, of revolutionizing cancer treatment, of building something truly good in a world obsessed with profit. But that dream shattered in a single night. It began with whispers, anonymous emails, strange calls, subtle doubts planted by people he trusted. And then, irrefutable evidence appeared. Text messages from Eliza's phone. Intimate, explicit, undeniable. There was a man's watch found in her car, a hotel keycard, and a private investigator's report, all pointing to one conclusion. She had betrayed him, betrayed their vows, their love, their future. Victor's world collapsed. Fury replaced reason. Julian Thomas, his lifelong friend and CFO of Reed Pharmaceuticals, stood by him through it all, offering comfort and decisive action. That very night, Victor demanded Eliza leave. He didn't listen when she cried, when she insisted the messages were fake, that she'd never seen that watch, that there was no man. His mind was set. The betrayal was too painful, too raw. She was gone by morning. And Victor? He buried the past. Now, standing at the altar with Sophia, Julian's sister and the woman who helped him heal from that dark chapter, Victor was ready to start again. His parents, seated in the front row, beamed with pride. The business was thriving, the wedding was the event of the year, and everything seemed perfect. until the sky above the estate thundered. A helicopter, black and sleek, appeared out of nowhere, cutting through the music and sending petals flying. Confusion spread like wildfire among the 300 guests. Sophia clutched Victor's arm, demanding answers he couldn't give. His heart pounded as the aircraft descended. And when the door opened, the world he had so carefully rebuilt began to crack. Eliza stepped out. She looked different, stronger, more poised, but unmistakably her. Beside her, 2 children, a boy and a girl, no older than 6, held her hands, their faces. Victor's breath caught. Those eyes. His eyes. The ground beneath him seemed to shift. 6 years ago, Eliza had begged him to listen. 6 years ago, she had tried to tell him something. And now, with the whole world watching, she was back, not just with a truth he had refused to hear, but with proof that would shake his life to its core. Victor's journey to this moment had been paved with power and precision. After Eliza's expulsion, he had focused solely on his company and his public image. Julian handled the financials, Sophia became his constant companion, and soon the whispers faded. Eliza disappeared from the social scene, and Victor convinced himself that she had moved on, that her silence confirmed her guilt. What he didn't know was that Eliza had been fighting to survive. Left with nothing, pregnant, and blacklisted from every major research institution, Eliza had found shelter with an elderly widow, Eleanor Simmons. With help from Eleanor and later Dr. Rebecca Torres, a fiery former industry researcher, Eliza rebuilt her life piece by piece. She pawned her wedding ring, used her scientific brilliance, and founded Phoenix Pharmaceuticals, a company born from betrayal, but driven by purpose. As Victor thrived in ignorance, Eliza was raising their twins, Leo and Luna, teaching them about the father they never met, all while revolutionizing cancer treatment under a different name, Eliza Winters. Phoenix grew quietly, ethically, and when her research uncovered deadly flaws in Reed Pharmaceuticals' flagship drug, Eliza knew she had to act, not for revenge, but to protect lives. But when she discovered that Victor's wedding to Sophia was scheduled for May 15th, the exact date he had thrown her out 6 years ago, Eliza saw a final, cruel twist in their story. It was time for the truth. All of it. Now, as she walked toward the altar, the twins at her side, the guests in stunned silence, and Victor frozen in disbelief, Eliza's voice rang out clear. Victor, meet your children, Leo and Luna. The ones you never knew existed when you cast me out. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Sophia's grip on Victor tightened. Julian paled, stepping forward, but Eliza raised a hand. I wouldn't, Julian, not unless you want your crimes made public right now. Victor's mind raced. His eyes locked on the children, his children. Every certainty crumbled, and for the first time in years, he questioned everything. This was no longer a wedding. This was a reckoning, and nothing, from this moment on, would ever be the same. Thank you for watching this Millionaire Love Stories today. Every love story is a journey, filled with passion, heartbreak, and unforgettable moments. And here at Millionaire Love Stories, we bring you the most captivating tales of love, wealth, and destiny. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget, like to support more incredible content. Comment your thoughts. Would you choose love over riches? Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next story. Millionaire Love Stories, because love knows no limits. Because love changes everything. See you in the next story.